First of all, I want to express how excited I was that the Build Peace is coming to Germany, and also what will this great community do with the space here, because I think actually there's not really a big peace-building scene in Germany, so to say, of Germans looking at local issues, but of course there are these issues, especially with like growing polarization. And our project, our work could maybe be seen as like an entry point, so how this could maybe look like in a very local perspective. So to set the scene, where did we come from? This project evolved from a park called Görlitzer Park in Berlin, which is quite infamously known, once because it's a very free and vibrant multicultural space, but also it has a lot of like social issues and also criminal. It's very known for drug trades. It has been a really hot political topic around this park, between the negotiation of free living or some form of like social order, and the Berlin government. At some point they implemented like a zero tolerance politics with heavy police enforcement there, which hasn't really gotten any good effects, because if you securitize a social issue, it doesn't go away. It's just going to be pushed away from the park into some other areas. And they were realizing, okay, we need maybe a different kind of approach of how we can address these social issues and create a safe space. And this is where this organization SE times 3, which stands for Security, Social Integration and Social Inclusion, came in to look at maybe a different form of security that could be not over law enforcement, but through dialogue, through communications, through presence. And this actually picked up very rapidly, because many districts wanted to have something like this for their respective areas, and there are very different topics actually that we are tackling here, from social issues like homelessness and drug issues, but also one is about creating a safe space for LGBTQI communities. We have some areas where it's more about like natural conservation, so we are really adapting of what we are doing here. So the components is one is the Parkläufer, who are pretty much like they're the ones in the field, so they always go around in teams of at least 2 for shifts from like 6 to up to 10 hours. And what they're doing is they really turn an eye towards what maybe people look away from. So they are giving very like immediate assistance to basic needs, de-escalating situation, conflict mediation, giving also information, which, for example, has been very important during the pandemic, really negotiating some compromises within the public space. And then we have, like every district has a park manager, and there's me and another colleague who are overseeing the whole thing. So here in a quite small team, we're analyzing what are the needs for the area. We're coordinating the actions of the Parkläufer, seeing maybe some new ideas, new projects to enhance social cohesion there, and also address different things that actually happen in the public space. I want to highlight 2 things out of our work that I think are important for this discussion here. One is that public spaces, they give a really great reference point for social interaction, and also for peace building, because this is where people meet, where they interact, and also go beyond their own filter bubbles, because this is where everyone meets. And here we have to learn how do we articulate our needs and how do we negotiate them with the people who are there. So that is really like the basis of democracy. And of course, different needs, different interests, they collide and they lead to conflict. But I think what is interesting in the public space, these conflicts, they become visible. So, and they can turn towards, or point towards social issues that are underlying these conflicts, and therefore it could give a really great opportunity if we're engaging with these conflicts there to have a transformation. The second part that I want to focus on is this, the issue of like urban cohesion that we are trying to foster with our work. I think Germany is a place that is quite rule and law based, which has good and bad parts. So if a person would try to, or is disturbed by something in his or her surrounding, and would like to change something, he or she would probably more likely to write a letter to a public entity or call the police, which you can say, okay, cool, things work relatively well here because they act somehow upon it. But one is that I think some vulnerable groups, maybe like migrant groups or youth groups, they don't have the same means to articulate their needs. And also I think it takes away some of the community sense if all your issues, you just delegate them further for someone else to deal upon it. So what we want to do is to bring people to take responsibility again for their kiez, as we say in Berlin, which is kind of like the neighborhood community, and learn to talk to each other again. So how do we negotiate between ourselves? And I think that's a very challenging but also very rewarding process, especially in a city like Berlin that is very diverse. We have people from very diverse backgrounds and different living models, so this can give great opportunities. However, we are still a bit scratching on the surface of this, also because of the resources we have. There's a lot of conflicts, of course, that we're seeing. Like, for example, there's one place where there's a lot of homeless people, but they want to rebuild the place, and neighbors are just fed up by the situation. Or we had another one where they were building like an urban gardening, which some of the neighbors loved, but the other was saying there's just a form of gentrification we're seeing here and burned down the whole half of the place. Or a lot of times with youth who are problematized because they are doing graffiti, so they just want to party and enjoy, and of course disturbing the neighbors there. And what we see is this is often the tip of the iceberg, right? So we have these conflicts that are visible there, but there's a lot of underlying. And at the moment we are setting up a new project here for like a mobile conflict team, because like before it was more about the space, and we want to focus more on the process, but we need more capacity to really focus on this process. And I think there we would really go into like conflict analysis, the whole dialogue process, do everything what the process needs to bring together and also transform a situation that would bring something for the community, and I also think above the community as well, and could maybe set the scene for Berlin peace building. So I leave it at that, and I would be happy to engage in some of this conversation maybe later tonight. Thank you.